We have no memory of when we began to communicate. Although it's something we have always done, from the moment of our birth and even before that. Perhaps that's why we don't think how we do it. We simply do it, in the same way as we breathe, bite into a sandwich or turn around quickly when we hear a sudden noise. Do we know what actually happens? No. We act and react in a way that we define as instinctive. But maybe that's not what really occurs. Communicating seems like a normal daily activity to us. However, even if we think we are used to communicating, situations arise where nothing seems to be going in the desired direction. We would like to control events, but things get complicated and tension grows, without us really understanding why. At this point, a hunt usually begins for the culprit, whether it's a person, as in most cases, or an external cause, but this is more of a political practice. But the object of the conflict remains unsolved. The situation has become critical, and we find ourselves with the unpleasant feeling that we never had control in the first place. In a professional relationship, we usually limit ourselves to a cursory knowledge of our colleagues, mostly on the basis of actions and reactions. We remain in the field of cause and effect, imagining that we maintain a proper distance between them and us, or the people that we deal with, such as those in the health professions. In a situation where you are in close contact with people for many hours every day, relationships tend to be structured in a very articulate manner, and just for a change, they escape our control. Daily, we do many different actions, and each one of these gives us a definition of our own relationship with the external world. So, furthermore, it contributes to define, at the same time, ourselves. But how many of these actions are done without thinking, once learned the execution sequence? How use with the energy saving gained by this sequence, superposing the habit to reality? We bond with our knowledge and information. Without them, we wouldn't be able to perform even our own simple daily rituals, such as getting out of bed or making ourselves a cup of coffee. Every day, we check our existing knowledge and maybe we acquire something new. But far more often we link the new information to something we already know and have substantiated a long time ago. This is why our habits are transformed from being a daily instrument of exploration and discovery to become our beloved prison of relationships. I use the words moving, exploring, discovering. These are words which presume a relocation, sometimes travel, either mental or physical. Sure, we can go on foot, but when we are dealing with relationships with the external world, it's inevitable that we use a means of transportation, a media, our own communication skills. This is the means capable of transporting us outside the borders of our skin. A means of transportation as essential and effective as the bicycle. But are we sure we know how it happens? Are we sure we know how to ride the bicycle? This is perhaps a somewhat strange question. but I'm sure that few people have asked themselves this question, and that experience has confirmed this for me. Try to make a list. We can use our personal capacity to balance, of course. Then is the inertia of a rectilinear motion, which increases with speed. Is that all? No, that isn't all. The gyroscopic effect of the wheels is another important element, and it functions in relation to precise physical quantities. In the next slide, you will see with your own eyes that the wheels of the bicycle don't only serve as a means of transport. Have you ever thought about this? After all, there was no reason to think whilst everything was going well. But things don't always go smoothly simply because we are done them repeatedly. I'd like to start with a premise. Insensitive people don't exist. Everything that's communicated arrives at the interlocutor. What is impossible to know beforehand is what will everybody do with the information received. Once more, rather than embarking on a hunt of a guilty part, care must be taken with regard to what we retain of the communication and what we throw away. I'm not talking about why we do this. This is a matter for psychoanalysts. But I'm saying is that our attention often needs to be rebalanced between internal and external factors. How much do I know my main communication media? How much do I know how to use it? How do I know if my interlocutor understands me? And, most importantly, what it understands? These three questions are the path's starting point. Auto-evaluation is impossible unless we feel that we need others in order to be able to do it. Our only possible validation is through continuous feedback, the basic element of any act of interpersonal communication. Let's begin by admitting that we don't have complete control over our communications. This could be a disturbance to some people, but this is simply one of the hidden sides of a series of communicative prejudices based on a strictly hierarchical, we could almost say military, organizational concepts. Here too, we must acknowledge that others might be absent. But in order to change, we often need to relinquish old and consolidated certainties. Verbal skills are often a comfortable sanctuary from where we can confuse ideas, ably mixing logic and contradictions, but this leads us to refuse to count the relational elements in the what is important, or even essential, category. This is one of the main reasons why we try to hide in eloquence as a source of unmistakable clarity. But often, what appears to be clarity is only an enticing trap. Even without arriving at the non-verbal expressions, which we see in the picture, the conflict is channeled in an interpersonal way all the same. Non-verbal expressions can be contained to the maximum and concealed, but emotions and, above all, relationships are constantly confirmed. It is in these moments that the only feasible path will seem to be that of authoritarianism, to the detriment of authority. But this provides a relational definition at an extremely high cost, which inevitably leads to a profound crisis within the whole team. But if people have real and understandable interpersonal relationship problems, That hindered the effectiveness of direction in the company. A show of muscles will hardly remedy to the situation. Someone or something else is needed. The someone else is someone other than you, who, although different, is you anyway. Or rather, to cite the Italian psychoanalyst Gianpaolo Lai, unidentical. Someone who, exactly like in a play, is following a script provided by a member of the team, listing what can or cannot be done, from the social position within the company and the target that must be reached. Confusing personal and professional identities can be first obstacle in relation to business target achievement and job satisfaction. A team of people who cannot be themselves in the company will mainly work with a hierarchic and irresponsible concept with regard to organization. An actor will never believe he is Othello off stage. On stage, his being Othello is only an application of an unidentical self, which he controls throughout the progression of the play. And if he knows the character's part very well, he can improvise. Improvising doesn't mean acting at random, but rather adapting around characteristics to a new or unexpected situation in order to be able to reach the target all the same. Othello wants to kill Desdemona, but if, for example, Desdemona suddenly reveals herself as a black belt in Kung Fu, or is armed with a Smith & Wesson P38, he will have to activate different ways from those described in the script in order to carry out his aim. Although we hope that we never find ourselves in a similar situation within our team, we must understand that improvising means controlling the change, whilst still aiming at the target and, if necessary, knowing how to look for and find new ways in a few seconds. Studying the human communication features through a theatrical approach is possible to improve the personal relationship skills, gaining self-confidence in own perceptions, learning to listen, learning to know the different kinds of languages. Of course, the first question is how is possible to go beyond interpersonal problems, which are from ever the main hurdle to collaborating. But in the next slide, there's a short and significant video.
Save it up for tonight. Don't put this near the steam, it's corned beef.
What if I put it into the contract? If he pokes you or spits at you, he doesn't get paid.
He doesn't? Yeah, he would spit at me for free.
Then will you answer me one question? If it was all that bad, why did you stick together for 43 years?
Why?
Yes, why?
Because he was terrific. There'll never be another one like him. Nobody could time a joke the way he could time a joke. Nobody could say a line the way he said it. I knew what he was thinking. He knew what I was thinking. One person, that's what we were. Oh, no. Al Lewis was the best. The best. You understand?
I understand.
As an actor, no one could touch him. As a human being, no one wanted to touch him.
That's the way. These are the salient points of the training of a professional character. The person, its skills and features, the listening, the professional character targets. They are at the same time aims and starting points, which feed and confirm the one with the other. For resuming in a deeper manner what I said a bit ago about conflict situation, I propose two frameworks. In this one, we see the parallelism between two different conflicts which have the common feature of involving the people as themselves. There isn't any exit door. In few time, everyone's positions become strict and irrevocable. Here, Even if it starts from a conflict, we can have several possible progressions, at least until someone of the two don't freezes himself on ethical or moral matters. The main difference is that the doors for give and receive information keep being opened. This is what the theatrical practice, employed in the professional training, can offer in a reasonably short time. At the training's time end, you will begin to have a different attention quality for yourself and your interlocutors, customers, managers, colleagues. The emotional presence inside the work's dynamics will not be a bother element, but a precious thermometer about the individual and team situation. What we need to get informations? Empathy, listening, tactic. Empathy. Why? In a conflict for win, it need to attack. Who care of the other one? Empathy is essential, because only through this happening to the other ones we can understand what is happening inside us. Empathy is a kind of listening very different to the simple lending ear. With empathy and listening, it's possible to elaborate a tactic for getting all the needed informations and later elaborating the best path to reach the target. So, who's riding what? In the second slide there was a catastrophic fall. But if you know who you are, what you can or cannot do, if you know which are the information that you need, if you are able to listen all the informations coming from your interlocutors, if you know how listen their requests, and if you have clear in your mind what you have to reach, you will be the rider of your own bicycle. All that remains is to wish you a pleasant trip.